Hi, Rice here. So we're going to continue with graph interpretation from this graph that we just looked at. There's a lot that's going on here. We need to unpack it, try and figure out what this means. This is the field position over the number of plays in the game. And I tried to make a graph. I tried to use a table to sort things, and I got this weird result. And so I want to try and make some meaning out of this so that it can become more useful for making predictions. So as I look at it, essentially you're looking at field progression and then a change of possession so that they don't have the ball for a while. From like this looks like play 10 to maybe play 20 or 21, they didn't have the ball, and then it goes back. It's strange that they would jump from like the 40-yard line to the 75-yard line to the 40-yard line and back and forth and back and forth. It makes me suspicious that in those sections it might actually be two games that are overlapped. And then when I think back to what happened with all my data, I wonder if it was a couple games that I've overlaid on top of each other. And I'm not sure, but I'm going to try and check. So one of the first things I'm going to do is hit Control-Z and start to go back and undo what I did. So here's what the graph looked like to start with. And there's a lot that's happening here. This is something that's a little unnerving, just to get back to where I am, or back where I started. And you can see here, when you scroll down and look at the play number, it starts at 104, and then they go down, they hit 190, and then they jump to 2. And then from 2, they go up to 96, and then they go back down to 2 again, and then they go up to 173. So it feels like there's maybe 3 games of data here. And so what I'm going to try and do first is actually manipulate what data's in to see how that changes anything. So I'm going to right-click and say Select Data. This is where you've really got a lot of control in Excel to make the graphs you want to make. And so I'm going to remove this series, and then I'm going to add one. So my series name is going to be, let's try Game 1. We'll try that as the name. And the X values, I'm just going to go through, these would be my plays. I'm going to go for whatever seems to be the first game. So I'll do that. And then the Y values for that are still going to be the field positions. And I just need to make sure that I end at the same spot that the other game ends. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so you can see here this is a little less crazy, right? It's not as much information, but it's not overlapping on itself. It looks like it's just one progression, so that's helpful. But I might be able to, I can add more series. So let me add another series. I'm going to call this Game 2. And, I need to edit Game 2. The X values for Game 2 will start here when we're on Game 2, go to 96, and then the Y values will need to be the things that line up with that. So here, start on the 25, and then they ended, there's the 96, just come over. These sitting at 100 and no other data makes me suspect to see if those are real, but we'll just go with it and then see what happens. So there's that, and okay, come back up and look at our graph. You can see these are the orange ones that just showed up. This is series 2. I might even be able to take this format or design, add a chart element. Let's add a legend. Let's add one we'll add it to the right. So that here's, you can see now it's labeled what's Game 1 and Game 2. And then we can also, it looked like there was a third game, so let's add the third game's data in. So each time I'm adding a new series, it's just another set of data to look at. And the neat thing is that as of right now, they're not overlapping. So they're not going crazy on top of each other. So that's good. You can see here I've got more of these 100-yard line things that look like they might actually be dud data points. Oh, I don't want that as the name. I want that as the X values. And then this would be Game 3. My Y values, I want to be all of this Game 3 business. So starting here, going down to the bottom, like that. Oh, I don't want the +1. I can do this. Okay, so now it's got all of this. You can see that it's got the ranges locked in, just like it does when you're doing a formula. It's got the name, so I do that, and okay. Now I can come up and take a look at it. Oh boy, so there you can see it's overlapping. And there were 2 like big tracebacks, so maybe this is what the graph was doing. It was 3 data points, and it was just in one long series of things, and then the format of graph always does a line that goes through the points. So maybe that's it. And it looks like they all end sitting at the hundreds or sitting at wherever they sat. So maybe that's the pattern that we're looking at. So there's a lot of interesting things. You can start to peel out information. Like here in the orange, they do some short runs, then a big, like a big Hail Mary pass, and then some more short things. And then they lose the ball, and they sort of make their progression down the field. And then they lose the ball, they make the progression down the field, and then there's something happening in here. I bet that was an interesting part of the game. And then they do this, and then they must have had one big one that took them from the 53-yard line maybe to scoring or something. And then the gray one, you can play out the narrative as well. It's kind of hard to see with gray. You might be able to change. Let's do so you can play around with the settings and the colors and whatever so that it looks nice. But this could be useful. And coming up with a graph, being able to control the series, being able to interpret from here, there's a lot that goes that can come out of a graph if you build it well. So that's useful, and hopefully this helps when you're trying to make your own graphs. So that's it. Bye.